If you love the thrill of racing but hate the risks, then buckle up. Everything Simulated is here to merge adrenaline with absolute safety. In a world where technology meets adrenaline, Everything Simulated is revolutionizing driver training with state-of-the-art simulators. From truck training to the thrill of motorsports, our simulators offer the most realistic experiences across all automotive applications. Gone are the days of endless bookwork and basic drills. Now it's all about hands-on, pulse-pounding action that prepares you for the real deal. Whether you're maneuvering a heavy mining vehicle or racing a high-speed car, our simulators, equipped with cutting-edge technology from leaders like Simrigs and Track Racer, bring every nuance of the drive to life. And talk about making a mark. We're not just building simulators, we're fostering talent. From grassroots motorsports to professional series like the Aussie Outlaw GT3, sponsored by us, Everything Simulated is fueling dreams and careers. Ready to feel the excitement of the racetrack under your fingertips? Connect with us, and let's build your next simulator adventure together. Remember, we support those who support us. Join the Everything Simulated family, and let's race towards the future.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Everything Simulated F4 Championship, supported by Plane 1 Sim Gear for round 2 here at Twin Ring Motegi. Last week we kicked off the season at the Bend Motorsport Park with a sprint round, 15-minute race, followed by a 30-minute feature race a little bit later on. Today it's a feature round, which means we've got just one 45-minute race, and unlike the Super Formula Light series that we've had for the last 3 seasons, in a 45-minute race we're needing 2 pit stops likely for these F4 cars to get round here today on fuel. This time around it's myself, Ian O'Leary, and Jared Cole taking you through the action. To be alongside you, Jared, and working with you here tonight. It is a 45-minute feature race at Twin Ring Motegi. Looking forward to seeing how this one goes for the 23 drivers who are just about 30 seconds away or so from getting into qualifying here this afternoon.
Yeah, likewise. Very good to be here with you tonight, Ewan, and an exciting race ahead of us. 45 minutes. Look, doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're running with the fuel restrictions that have been put in place here as part of this F4 Championship, it really does make it feel like a proper mini race, doesn't it? Those 2 pit stops, the strategy behind these is going to be very, very interesting to see tonight.
Absolutely. The pit windows for the both of them should be any time between lap 1 and lap 8 for the first pit stop, and then 15 and 19 to make it all the way home. Of course, that could be changed by any safety cars that we see this afternoon, if indeed we get one. We will wait and see. Last week, as I mentioned, it was the Bend Motorsports Park and a sprint round that kicked us off this season. Let's have a look at the championship standings and indeed the point situation after those first 2 races. Benjamin Roberts, with 2 race wins and 2 pole positions, is unsurprisingly the championship leader. Oisin Colangelo is in second, further 28 points further back. Then it's Josh Perrin, who is the only other driver to score over 100 points last week. Kane Ryder and Thomas Hinds round out the top 5, with Daniel Byrne in 6th. Danny Davidson a further few points behind, with Richard Banerjee in 8th. Tom Donoghue and Dan Ackland round out the top 10, with Justin McLaren just a point ahead of Hayden Millington. Judy Slater is 13th, ahead of Todd Parks and Josh Marsh, rounding out the top 15. Dylan DeBono and Vaughan Ryder are tied on 39, ahead of Mitchell Hathaway in 18th. Steph Burkhardt and Alexi Watson round out the top 20. William Fraser, Ben Ryder, Peter Zeder, Scott Pocock and Adrian Loretti round out the drivers who scored points at the previous round. By the way, we've got 40 drivers having signed up for the series, although many of them didn't race last week, so hopefully they do turn up this time around. But it was dominance from Benjamin Roberts last week. 28 points his championship margin after taking 2 poles and 2 race wins. He couldn't have asked for much more than that from the opening round of the season.
No, just an absolutely dominant display, as you say, and you look at the rest of, honestly, the field. There's some really tight races in there for the championship, but Benjamin Roberts, if he keeps that up, is going to absolutely blitz this championship. Someone's going to have to find a way to stick with him and stop him if they want any hope of getting up on the top step at some point. His pace at the Bend was just phenomenal. Look, maybe a fluke. Maybe he just loves the track, but I have some doubts about that based on what we saw.
Yeah, we'll see how he goes at a different track here today. Benjamin Roberts. We're going to 8 different tracks this season in our 8-round season. The F4 Championship, as I mentioned, starting at the Bend Motorsports Park, follows the official APAC schedule for the F4s. So we're effectively alternating between Australia and Japan. Motegi today is followed by a sprint round at Phillip Island and a sprint round at Okayama. A feature at Bathurst, because sprint racing around there doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes more sense to have a 45-minute race. Fuji then for 15 and 30 minutes, same for Winton, the penultimate round before ending the season at Suzuka. I've got to say, I think this is a really well-formed calendar, actually. It's so great in iRacing these days, by the way, that we can have so many Australian circuits in one schedule. In fact, we're not even using all the Australian circuits available in iRacing anymore. We're very lucky in 2025. We kicked the thing off with a new track, and we're going to see 3 more Australian tracks. Winton as well, I don't see used very much, so I'm very much looking forward to that one especially. But yeah, what a great schedule it is to be able to follow the Australian-Japanese schedule in the F4 Championship.
It really is, and look, as much as I don't love Winton in most cars, put me in an open wheeler with some downforce and I will take that any day over somewhere like Oran Park. So really, really nice to see that one on the schedule. It's it's a track that for some reason just really feels right when you've got a bit of downforce and some nice wide tyres under you. It just comes into its own.
And it's Sandown and Oran Park were the ones we're not using off the top of my head in the Australian schedule. So there you go. But maybe Oran Park won't be that much of a miss, as you say.
Yeah, I'll be okay without it, I think.
Yeah. We'll see in the future, but yeah, that is your schedule. Now then, qualifying is just underway. 15 minutes, as same as what we get in the Super Formula Light Series. 15-minute qualifying, followed by a 45-minute race. The drivers have just made their way out onto the circuit for their first laps, and they're just going to come towards the line here right now. So Von Ryder, Kane Ryder are two of the first to come over the line, but before that, Thomas Sims, Danny Davison, and Tristan McLaren all follow the line or follow each other across the line rather. Benjamin Roberts slows down clearly on that lap. He's 12 seconds behind at the moment. Thomas Sims, who takes the pole position through that first lap time, but it's going to be about building up the speed here. It's quite a long circuit, so I'm not sure whether many of these drivers are actually going to visit the pit lane in the mid part of this session, because even if you don't, you get only 8 laps. As well, those guys are going to have to visit pit lane. That's a bit of a mess coming round turn 3 there.
Yeah, it will be an interesting one, and particularly with a little bit of cloud cover around today. You know, the weather's looking okay. We're not expecting any rain at the moment, but certainly the temperatures are perhaps just a little bit lower than some of the drivers may have anticipated. So a little extra time to get some heat into the tyres. I think we're going to see some pretty impressive improvements in those times that have already been posted over the next couple of laps, as the drivers do get around for 2, 3, 4 laps instead. Yeah, it's a good day for getting out on track and keeping it out of the pit lane, I think.
Absolutely. Angus Milne is probably going quickest at the moment in terms of his lap time. He's gone purple in the third sector, as well as getting some personal bests as well. He's got a nice bit of a slipstream down to the bottom of the hill as well from Danny Davison, who's in the orange just up in front of him here. Now down on the brakes. Tricky braking zone down there. People don't often think about turn 11, but the big braking zone downhill, which never helps as you now come into the final sector. Long swooping left-hander before jumping over the curbs for that run to the line. And this could be a top time from Angus Milne as he works his way over the line. Is it going to be? Yes, it's going to be second, I think. Or has it count? No, it's fourth place, excuse me. Just about 2 tenths away. Danny Davison just moving the goalpost slightly. He goes to the top now with a 52.1.
Yeah, that's a very... It's the thing with the F4s. If you're not familiar with them, if you're tuning in for the first time, first of all, welcome across. I know that you're very much used to seeing tin tops here on Simple Racing broadcasts, but a little bit of variety never hurts anyone. One of the things about the F4s, you look at them and you expect them to have just enormous amounts of grip being a Formula car, but there's actually a lot more mechanical grip involved here than I think people realise. These wings don't actually generate that much downforce, so when you talk about, as you say, that braking zone downhill, it is actually a much trickier thing to put one of these cars up than you might expect. So expect to see perhaps a few lockups and a few hard-in-mouth moments there this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. As speaking of hot and mark moments, Ben Ryder's being overtaken there, and this is battling in qualifying. What are these guys doing here into turn 7? And finally they sort it out. It's Benjamin Roberts who's coming through, and you can understand why he's quicker, because Roberts is just so quick. However, you don't want to be battling in qualifying at all, and this is going to surely disrupt the lap time for Roberts, who again hasn't got a time on the board yet. He won't be too concerned. We're only just about to reach halfway in this qualifying session, but nevertheless, it's unusual to see the 2-time pole sitter from last week down the order like this.
It is. I have some faith that he's probably just getting a good run in there. We saw last week that, wasn't the outright fastest right from his first lap. Certainly building up the temperature, building up the pace on those tyres that he's running out there, and really aiming to put in a very, very solid lap when he does. I think Benjamin Roberts probably hoping more for some clean air rather than getting caught up in battling, so that he can post a solid lap time the whole way around the circuit rather than any interruptions, make it a little bit harder to knock him off that pole as we see him come through and post. That will be a 151.743, so even with the traffic there, going to the top of the leaderboard by some 3 tenths, that is a very, very decisive way to set your name up the pole position.
Yeah, that is a startling prospect for the rest of the field. Last week, as I say, took 2 pole positions, and he also took 2 race victories, 2.8 seconds in the 15-minute race and just over 7 in the second race. He didn't get fastest lap both times, though. Thomas Hinds was able to steal the fastest lap for race 2. Well, he was on his way. Where did he finish in that? I've lost him now. But for 5th place overall, he finished 4th in that second race of the day. But yeah, he's pretty much otherwise swept all the points. Other than that, did Roberts, as Vaughan Ryder comes into the final couple of corners. Thomas Hinds, speaking of which, actually will be doing so as well. Seth Burkhart's is just in behind him, even though he's got that purple penultimate sector. I'm not sure how much quicker that will be. Kane Ryder moves up to 4th place. What about Burkhart's? Is this time going to be any better? I think he slowed down in the early part of the lap, so well, he's 15th still, but I think he had to let Thomas Hinds through at some stage during that lap, and so he's still down the field. Pit lane start for 2:42. Now that is Patrick Savina, who has only been out there for a lap and a half, qualifying impeding, and so well, Patrick hasn't actually got a lap on the board yet, so he might well just pull into the pit lane and not bother with it now, because he's going to have to stop from the pit lane anyway.
Oh, nothing wrong with a bit of last-minute track preparation and familiarisation. May as well use the qualifying session for what it's worth, I suppose, but that is not the way that I think Savina will have wanted to start his campaign here. Obviously not part of last week's racing, so probably not the impression he was hoping to make on some of the other names in the field, but I'm sure we'll make amends for that as we get underway here tonight. A few of the other names joining us for the first time tonight. James Raymakers hasn't actually set a time yet, so it'll be interesting to see what he can put on the board. But another Team Max Boost entry, and everywhere you look, you see these blue and white cars getting around the track here in the FDL F4 Championship. Motegi, first time racing in the F4 Championship here in round 2. Not a bad start in qualifying either, straight into 8th, having dropped a few spots from an initial qualifying position of, I believe it was 4th when she first crossed the line. So it'll be interesting to see what she can deliver in a race setting as well, Jan.
Yeah, I've got to say, I do like these liveries, by the way, for the Max Boost F4s. The sort of light blue and silver. Yeah, well, yeah, partly that, which is great for commentary. But also, I just think it looks good as well in the sort of, it's kind of shiny chrome that they've got going on. It's not, in-your-face chrome, but, it's just a little bit there. There's Vaughan Ryder's version. Madeline McGee, by the way, as you say, not racing in the F4 Championship to date, but has been in the Super Formula Lights Championship. I'm not sure if it was last season or the season before, where she took a victory in the silver class in a race. I think it was at Interlagos, weather affected that race. And we'll be hoping to do the same here. No driver classes here as of yet. I haven't actually been told whether that's a plan in the future to be...
I can confirm that based on the number of entries coming through, there may well be some classes introduced from round 3, so next week. So we'll have confirmation of that during the week ahead of next week's racing, but at this stage it does look like we're going to be introducing some classes to this championship, so keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, but over 20 drivers in both races so far, 25 to the end of the first round of the season, although a few less at the second race. We've got 22 here so far as well. And Patrick Savina has indeed pulled into the pit lane after that penalty, deciding not to go on any longer. Now, Danny Davidson is in the slipstream of one of those Max Boost cars you just saw there, and try and see who can get close to Benjamin Roberts. Well, it won't be Davidson. He improved last time round, but he's gone to pit lane now. Actually, Colangelo and Kane Ryder also improved that last time round, but there's very little time remaining. Davidson now gets back out onto the circuit. He'll have one more go at trying to go better than Roberts, who looks like he might be in the pit lane for good now at the end of the session.
Colangelo crossing the line there, also improving the time just a little, not enough to jump up at the leaderboard any further, but a third place start will be more than enough to make sure the Ocean stays competitive here tonight. Seeing quite a few green sectors still coming through, which suggests to me, Ewan, that there's still a little bit of time to be found here with track temps and with tyre temps improving right to the end of qualifying. We've got just a little under 2 minutes left here for drivers to start their final hot laps. take a look at Ben Ryder out on track right now, sitting in 20th at the moment, already 3 green sectors though. So on track for hopefully a fairly significant improvement in qualifying time.
Absolutely. This is the 20th placed driver as we watch down in towards turn 11. I mentioned before, pretty difficult braking zone down the hill there.
And
and a big slide. Wow, and look at all the gravel there as well. That's going to be a story of the race down at turn 11 because the gravel trap's not that far away. And don't forget, in iRacing these days, you bring all of that gravel onto the circuit, and Ben Ryder will be doing the same now, bringing all the grass and all the dirt and all sorts onto the circuit again. It's a great thing that iRacing has these days, but it makes turn 11 pretty treacherous by the end of a race.
It absolutely does, and at least you can see very, very clearly where all the gravel is, but it's something that, particularly at the pace of a full race field, can be very, very hard to predict. And as we see, Tristan McLaren, again, just testing the limits of traction there on the rear. Beautiful stop, though. Very, very well controlled and straight back underway. Probably not going to get around in time to run another hot lap, unfortunately, but the when you are grouped up in the field and you come across that gravel, it can very, very quickly catch you by surprise, particularly with the massive slicks that these F4s do run, compared to the size of the car frame. Get the tyres coated in some of that gravel and you'll find yourself mid-corner with a lot of steering correction to do at the very least, if not completely sideways.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an unusual car in that respect, I guess, a little bit, as the time now ticks away and elapses in a couple of moments. The checker flag will be out, so who is still out there on the circuit doing anything towards the end of a lap? Kane Ryder is just getting towards the end of a lap at the moment, but only 1 personal best improvement in a sector, so surely that's not going to be too much of an improvement for him. Maybe it will be. Let's see. Can he move up a place? Oh, he does improve into the 51s at least, but
missing
he doesn't get any places.
1,000th.
Yeah, 1,000th of a second behind Colangelo. Davison and Colangelo, actually, speaking of which, are actually around the other side of the circuit. They're about half a lap away from completing their session. This is Madeline McGee up towards the line as well. No personal best improvements in any sector, so that looks like that's going to be that for her. As I say, though, Davison and Colangelo still out there on the circuit and going okay so far. Not sure it'll be enough to get the pole from Roberts at the moment, as Angus Milne also comes over the line. Daniel Ackland just in the background. Don't think he is going to improve either. So, yeah, not very many improvements coming through here late on.
No, they seem to get a bit of a rush of them a couple of laps ago, but this time around the driver's just struggling to find anything left in the cars. So perhaps reaching a bit of a limit of the tyres, having been a fairly hectic qualifying session. We haven't really seen any of the drivers coming back in to change tyres and get back out there at all so far. So perhaps that's what's had the impact.
Yeah, maybe. It's looks like the end of the session and a pole position for Benjamin Roberts by the looks of things here at Twin Room Motegi in the second round of the FDL Everything Simulated F4 Championship, supported by Player One Sim Gear, also supported of course by Capstone Marketing and Print Racer this season, within the F4 Championship and indeed the Super Formula Lights Championship. 2 nights of racing these days in the FDL League, which is absolutely fantastic to have. As I say, the session has now ticked away and elapsed, but the session will not move on for a second or so here as they all complete their qualifying. But first, or indeed only race, will be coming up very shortly. Standing start as always, but 45 minutes of a race, and we will see how the strategy pans out, because in the Super Formula Lights Championship it's 1 stop in a race this long. 2 stops is going to make things extra interesting actually over such a short race comparatively, to have 2 stops.
I do like the strategy element that it introduces though, Ewan, because so many of the official racing series and of course so many league races are of a length where you aren't really forced to take a pit stop. You're given the full tank of fuel to work with, and you can just run from finish from start to finish without having to make that stop at all. And certainly forcing a little bit of strategy when it comes to pit stops, I think just adds a whole other element that's definitely worth seeing.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the starting grid then. Ready for round 2 here from Motegi, and it's Benjamin Roberts who is on the pole ahead of Danny Davison, Oisin Colangelo, and then Kane Ryder share row 2. Thomas Hinds is running out the top 5, and then the only non-Oz NZ driver, Rishabh Banerjee of India, is going to be in 6th. Steph Burkhardt and Angus Milne will share row 4 ahead of Vaughan Ryder and Madeline McGee rounding out the top 10. Alexi Watson and Dan Ackland are next ahead of Daniel Byrne and Todd Donahue sharing row 7. Todd Box is the last driver within a second of pole, with Justin McLaren just outside of that marker. James Raymakers and Mitchell Halfway are on row 9 ahead of Sam Katagazinos and Ben Ryder rounding out the top 20. At the back end of the field, Sam Katagazinos, Ben Ryder, I've already said that. William Fraser and Patrick Savina are on the last row. Savina not taking part in qualifying. We're starting from the back, starting from the pit lane anyway. Jimmy Peacock there is our safety car driver as always. Hopefully he will not be required over the course of the 45 minutes. It's going to be all about beating Benjamin Roberts, I think, after 2 race wins last week and nearly all of the possible points, 153 out of a possible 154. It's going to be about beating him down in towards turn 1 as they start to grid up on the front straight.
Yeah, it absolutely will be, and certainly the start always key. If you can get a good launch off the line, you can always pick up a couple of early spots. So the pressure are always on the pole sitter, no matter how quick they were in qualifying. This is an opportunity for the rest of the field, and certainly the next 2 or 3 rows at the very least, to really put some pressure on as they come into turn 1. That said, Benjamin Roberts, from what I saw of him in round 1, Ewan, very, very hard to beat off the line. And we'll just have to see if anyone's got what it takes here tonight. I'm hoping Danny Davison off P2 there might be able to challenge as we make our way down towards turn 1. But I'm not confident enough that I'd be putting any money on it just yet.
And it's interesting as well that you get the inside line as well in second place, so that could be an advantage launching off the line there, off the front row to take the lead early, but we will see. It's not the usual iRacing 2-minute gridding period, by the way, if you're wondering why it's going on for a bit. It's I believe 3 minutes that you get per race here, and some of the drivers are using almost all of that time now. As I mentioned, Patrick Savina will not take to the grid at the back end of the field, but you won't notice any gaps. Sam Katagazinos should fill that one in the background there in 19th position before we get ourselves underway here tonight. It's taking a while, up to the 3-minute mark, and maybe he will start from the pit lane as well. No, there we go. He pops them just in time. So we're ready to go. 45 minutes of racing then at Twin Ring Motegi in the second round of the Everything Simulated F4 Championship here tonight. Savina's ready on the pit road. The 21 drivers are ready on the front straight, and we are ready to go racing with Benjamin Roberts on the pole once again. Here we go, Twin Ring Motegi racing begins, and look at that dive immediately across the circuit in the midfield as they already go 3 wide in towards turn 1. It's Roberts who covers off Davison quite nicely into that flowing first corner at this circuit. Colangelo then takes 3rd place ahead of Kane Ryder in 4th, then Thomas Hinds who rounds out the top 5 for the moment down in towards turn 2. There's a little look from Colangelo down in the distance, but nothing doing, and not at least for the top 6 who stay single file.
A really cracking start once again. We saw this in round 1 and again in round 2. These drivers getting very, very quickly into a racing line here, taking full advantage of the aero that's available here in the F4s. This corner is the one that we were looking at earlier, Ewan, and so far so good. Everyone managing to keep it not only in a straight line but also on track. So no more kitty litter just yet, but early days.
With the middle sector now, the sweeping S's of turn 7 and 8 with Roberts leading the way. There was a battle for 6th place between Banerjee and Burkhardt, but that has sorted itself out. They're running single file now, and there's a bit of a defence actually in the background from Vaughan Ryder, who's got Watson right in behind him there. Look at that run coming off of the left-hander from Alexi Watson. Already made 1 place on Madeline McGee to begin with. Now what about into the hairpin here as they break for turn 10? Nothing doing quite on this occasion, but Watson now finds himself inside the top 10 and looking for more places as well.
A really, really solid start. Brilliant job. Danny Davison, Oisin Colangelo underway already and keeping Ben Roberts in check for the moment. It's only 1 lap down, but you know, from the pace we've seen Roberts put on, it wouldn't have surprised me to see him already a second out after what is a relatively long lap here at Motegi. Davis and Colangelo, though, working together, not a lot of battling going on just yet, just trying to settle into that rhythm. You know, it's only 2 minutes into 45 minutes of racing, so plenty of distance to go, a couple of pit stops. A lot can happen, but already you can see the difference in pace as Roberts dips into the 57s with the rest of the field 58 or longer.
Yep, it's a good start for Roberts, that's for sure. As the first lap is completed, a little bit wide in the background there for, I think, Banerjee there, fifth in line, just slightly missed the apex, and Burkhardt might well try and punish, or was it Hinz, sorry, who went a little bit wide, and Banerjee is actually very close, down in towards the right-hander, but no. And this is turning into a bit of a slipstreaming train here at Motegi, although it's not a straight line speed circuit, as it were. There are a lot of straights here, the front straight fairly long, so is the one towards turn 2, towards turn 4. This is a flat-out section as well, don't forget, as you get towards the S's, and then you're between 9 and 10, short straight there before long back straight as well to bring you down to turn 11. That's a lot of slipstreaming opportunity in some slightly lower powered open wheel machines, which mean they can stay together a little bit more easily, like these F4s.
Absolutely can, and the battle's going on right throughout the field as well. We take a look back, Mitchell Hathaway has had a bit of a moment, and here comes Parks just creeping up the outside of this turn. Hathaway's got an opportunity to defend here, but is going to have to push very, very hard to keep position. They go side by side, and as it stands, Parks gets the drive out of the corner. Hathaway's going to have to be content to settle in behind and look for an opportunity to regather.
Looking down the inside, here comes McLaren again, and can't get it done, I don't think. Halfway will stay in front in that, I've got to say, quite nice mid-2000s Renault livery. A bit wide from Katkazinos, and Raymakers is going to find his way round the outside through the double left-hander and into the awkward final turn, and he gets it as well. Katkazinos was a little bit nice to him, but in the end, you don't really want to be going side-by-side through those final couple of corners anyway.
We'll jump back up front because Davison and Colangelo starting to just close the gap between each other. Colangelo's starting to reel Davison in just a little. Not a huge difference in pace at the moment, but she's certainly keeping him absolutely under wraps, not allowing him to get away too much, and just trying to follow him to Ben Roberts, who out in front still being held to less than a second at the moment. And I think certainly the open nature of Motegi is helping these drivers to take full advantage of that aero to stay with him. As you were saying before, it's not a high-speed circuit as such, is it, Ewan? But the corners are wide enough and open enough that you don't lose quite as much time as you perhaps would expect elsewhere, as we see a couple of drivers coming out from under the bridge side by side. This is Raymakers, who has taken advantage and ended up in front of McLaren as a result.
Yeah, that's a good pass into 17th place. Raymakers is getting places early on here, up to 17th, and well, I'll say getting places just back to where he started really, but if you lose places off the start, you've got to win them back again, and he's done it with inside 5 minutes here in this race. Here comes Katkazinos as well, and McLaren not quite able to make it through that time around, although that's quite wide from McLaren. He's into the grass as well, and he's in the slipstream now, is Katkazinos, down towards turn 11. Will there be a chance maybe for a dive on the brakes this time round? The pretty long braking zone down here. There is. Oh, he's very late on the brakes. Can he pull it up in time? He just about can. That was a very nice pass. It looked like he'd gone too deep there, but no, he's pulled it up in time, and Katkazinos moves up to 18th place. Incredibly
impressive to not lock a wheel there. Those brakes were screaming, absolutely red hot as he came in. For us to be able to see it that clearly during a daytime race, I don't think Katkazinos is going to have a lot of feel left in that pedal for the next couple of corners as they recover.
Oh, that's close. McLaren very nearly making side-to-side contact with him there, and now pulls back in line again to try and disrupt the run of William Fraser in the number 9 car. Now Fraser's on the outside line going in towards 3. Or turn 2 rather. That was a very risky one for McLaren. He had to brake late to defend from Fraser, but not too late so as to crash straight into the side of Sam Katkazinos, out down the hill in towards turn 4. And there will be no chance this time round. This is where the liveliest racing is so far. Not too much other than this. Finally, there's racing in the top 6 now. It's a look from Banerjee down the inside of Thomas Hinz, but nothing doing this time round again. The top 7 getting away from the rest, but not really fighting with each other.
Not yet. Not yet. Give them time though, Ewan, because the battling will get very intense, I'm sure, as we start to see a couple of small packs almost forming here. Hinds is going to have to really step up the pace to stay on the back of Ryder ahead of the Team Max Boost entry, or risk losing that slipstream and letting this front four really start to pull away from the rest. The gap now for Ben Roberts, so starting to come down. Now, is this a fuel-saving strategy from Roberts, or have Davison, Colangelo and Ryder actually found a little bit of extra pace here tonight, perhaps?
Well, that's no further action for Tristan McLaren in car 64, so he is free to race, and he is racing down the inside of Sam Carcazinos, and he goes through now into turn 11. Tristan McLaren repasses again. Fraser forced to just watch in 20th place, just in behind. A good battle further down the field, and there goes Ben Ryder, William Fraser. Ben Ryder's going to get the place. William Fraser goes for the spin through the final corner, and there's the dirt and the gravel being brought onto the circuit there through the final turn.
Yeah, Fraser pushing very, very hard to try and stay with McLaren and Carcazinos, who are involved in their own little battle and unfortunately coming unstuck there. I'll hat off though to Tristan McLaren, just showing Carcazinos that, yeah, anything you can do, I can do better. Takes almost a carbon copy of dive under brakes. That was phenomenal. Here comes Colangelo though, looking for an opportunity. Davison watching those mirrors very closely, I'm sure, absolutely full of that aqua and white livery of Max Boost, no matter which side he looks at the moment.
Get the feeling that Colangelo is just toning this back a little bit for the moment, because Roberts is in danger of getting away at the front. There's a battle as well for ninth place. This is the second group on the road, and it was side by side briefly there, but no longer. That's a bit of a muddle through there for Vaughan Ryder, and Daniel Byrne's going to be looking for a place. He can't get through just for the moment, and Madeline McGee drops a place as well, actually another one since the start, now down to 12th. Watson up to 9th as well after having passed Vaughan Ryder in 10th, who very nearly lost a place to Daniel Byrne as well. This is a lot tighter of a group actually in second place, a much bigger group as well than what we got for the lead at the moment.
It absolutely is. That said though, plenty of battles going on up front, as we see Colangelo again closing the gap to Davison. So finding a bit of extra pace out of that last turn there to really close down time after time here. I think Davison's going to have to be very, very careful, because Colangelo's just going to be sussing out what Davison is capable of under brakes into that corner. No rush to get the pass done. We've still got over half an hour of racing here, but that just gives Colangelo more and more time to get a feel for where the weakness might be in Davison's braking game.
Personal best actually from Kane Ryder last time round, and he's the last of the four here that are now at the front. It's not really a front seven anymore. Thomasins has sort of lost the others. Banerjee and Burkhart's stuck there as well. They couldn't get past Hinds, and so they've lost the front group now. But nearly 10 minutes gone. No pit stops as of yet. Patrick Savinas doesn't count. He spent 13 seconds in the box, but that's because he started from the pit lane. We're only just starting lap 6 now, though, so over the next 3 or 4 laps or so, we're going to see all of these drivers in for the first time.
It'll be interesting to see how this strategy plays out. You'd have to think the first probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 drivers here behind Roberts are going to do everything they can to hold off and follow Roberts' lead on the pit stop for this first one. Usually the pressure is on that front driver, because they don't have the luxury, of course, of following the rest of the cars behind them in. So they're going to put him under pressure, try and push him all the way to a late stop perhaps. But at this stage, I would say it's going to be Roberts that will set the pace of the first pit stop.
Absolutely. We'll see what he decides to do here, because as I talked about at the early part of the broadcast, there's a really wide pit window here, and it does allow for a lot of different strategy. Because these cars are a fixed setup, so it limits them in the first in that way, but the max fuel that they can put in is also limited. Their fuel tank size is also limited, so unlike the Super Formula Light Series, they are effectively forced to make 2 stops unless there's a safety car. Now into the pit lane for Vaughan Ryder. It's slightly wrong-footed Daniel Byrne there, actually, who didn't quite know what to do, but Vaughan Ryder's in. That's the first scheduled pit stop of any kind in this race.
It'll be interesting to see, with so many Team Max Boost entries, how many of them follow the same strategy, or how much they do actually split up the team strategy. I'm going to anticipate that we won't actually ever see, bar a safety car of course, we won't actually ever see 2 Team Max Boost entries into the pit lane at the same time. I fully expect them to try a number of different strategies, particularly for Colangelo and Ryder up front. They'll want to have a couple of options up their sleeve to try and unseat Roberts from that top spot.
I think you're probably right. It would be ideal to sort of mix things up the most you possibly can here, and we'll see how they can achieve that, maybe, as Watson now brings them out onto the middle sector again here towards turn 7. He's got Daniel Byrne right in behind him, and Byrne just has a little look. They're all losing time being sat here at the moment in this battle. They're seeing the top 8 in front of them go away. It'd be very interesting to see where Vaughan Ryder can undercut maybe with these guys, if at all possible. But we're getting towards the limit now. This is lap 7 rather. This is lap 7, and in just a lap's time, that's when the pit window should close here. If you can do 9 laps, then you might well be able to save for a one-stop if there's a safety car, so look out for that. But the next 2 laps we're going to see a very busy pit lane.
Absolutely will, and plenty of opportunity for people to get it wrong on the pit entry and on the entry and exit to the pit box as well. It's amazing how much of a difference it can make, just being a little bit slower to get on the brakes and, you know, keep the speed up on the way in, as we see Watson come in for the pit stop. Now Roberts, Burkhardt, Watson all into the pits. Raymaker's in as well, so absolutely starting to happen around these drivers. This is going to mix up the order for a little while here. Out in front with Roberts in, Danny Davison gets a chance at clean air. It'll be interesting to see whether Colangelo sticks with him here or even makes the pass, because Colangelo not backing off at all now that Roberts has gone in.
Oh, he's got to work together here. They've got to work together, and Davison just went a bit wide through turn 2, mirror driving a little bit, and now look, he's trying to defend here, but Colangelo, I think, was indicating, you know, we've got to stay in line at the moment. We've got to try and overhaul Roberts with this overcut, use the lower fuel load that they've got on board at the moment to get ahead of Roberts, but at the moment that's not happening. Roberts, very importantly, by the way, just snuck in front of Ben Ryder at that pit stop, so if he got stuck in traffic, this equation gets very different and a lot more complicated for him. But this time around, it is not traffic for him. It is effectively a race on different parts of the circuit between these 2 groups of drivers. Davison's got to concentrate here, leading the field around to try and overcut the race leader.
Yeah, it's a gamble now for just how far they can stretch what's remaining in their tank. Remembering, of course, they do start with a less than full tank, even with the restrictions. It'll be less than what is able to be put in at the pit stop. So these drivers will have to think very carefully about how much they're actually taking on board. Colangelo getting it right down to a 10th here, but not making a move as Davison defends aggressively the inside of that racing line. Colangelo, though, not looking like she's in too much of a hurry to make an attempt at this point, as all 3 line it up and into the pits they come. Watch them flow in behind. We've got Davison, Colangelo, Ryder, then Hinds, Banerjee, Milne all coming in. Daniel Byrne as well. Here comes Madeline McGee, Parks, Hathaway. The rest of the field flowing in. The only one left out on track, none other than Tom Donohoe, Everything Simulated Racing, is going to keep on running and try and get just a slight advantage from maybe 1 and, dare I say, 2 extra laps before making that pit stop.
And Roberts gets out in front quite comfortably, very comfortably. Wow, that is a huge gap. Where has that come from? 3 seconds for Roberts compared to Davison, Colangelo and Ryder. The pit stop time is no different there, really. So that's very interesting. Tom Donohoe, as you say, has gotten the lead pretty comfortably, but hasn't stopped yet. But where have those 3.5 seconds appeared from? I do not know.
It's a great question, and ultimately, when you look at the timings, Ben Roberts just far more aggressive on how close to the pit lane limiter he's been running down the course of that lane. I think the stop distance, the stop times in the box, all fairly identical. You know, a reasonably quick one from Roberts at a 4.4, with a 4.6 from Davison, for instance. But almost 2 seconds quicker across the length of the lane. So Ben Roberts really risking it all in terms of just, you know, bumping up against that pit speed limit to get out of there as quickly as possible. And it's so far paid dividends. That is a huge additional gap to pick up from a pit stop.
Absolutely. That's going to be a mystery to unpick. And Colangelo now is going to say, well, if we're not going to win, then I might as well attack for second place here, or it will be second anyway. Once Donahue comes into the pit lane, but not into turn 10 anyway. There's a big braking zone down here at 11, and it's another good run for Colangelo in towards the corner. Davison does feel the need to defend this time round, and it is a look down the inside. They are going to fight for this place now. Late on the brakes, side by side between the two, and it's good respect shown, but there's a little bit of contact on the exit. Nothing too bad. Davison gets on the inside for the double left-hander, and he keeps second place. This is resigning them to second. Roberts is going to run away with this battling going on, but what else can they do here? The gap is large to the leader, and so they might as well fight for second place.
Colangelo's been signalling that move lap after lap, and Davison knew it was coming, did an awesome job of defending it from the outside of the turn, but has to be on high alert because Colangelo's had a crack at it, will be feeling really confident with the amount of grip available, and now starting to look at other options. Davison defending very, very aggressively with that track position. That's going to cost everyone in this line some time as well, though.
And he's gone wide. He's gone wide at turn 2 again. He did that on his in-lap. Just went a little bit wide on the brakes there. And he's done it again now. Colangelo, though, pulls from the left-hand side to the very right-hand side by the looks of things. Not going to dive it down the inside. That would have been perhaps overly aggressive. Kane Ryder sat there right in behind. So Colangelo doesn't have any worries about being attacked from a driver behind. Kane Ryder's just going to sit there and wait. And he's going to hope to follow through on Colangelo's overtake on Davison, if indeed it arrives, because so far Danny Davison has done a decent job of defending.
I can guarantee right now there is a lot of conversation going on in the Team Max Boost radio as to exactly what they're going to do here. I think Colangelo's probably got another 3 or 4 laps to get past Davison before we may see her move out of the way to allow Ryder to have a bit of a crack. They've both got the pace here, but if they're thinking about the long game and thinking about the team results, I'm gonna pick that Ryder will start to move up and have a bit of a swing at Davison himself.
Maybe. Side by side meantime between Daniel Byrne and Watson, and Colangelo has gone down the inside at turn 11 as well. It's all happening at the moment. That looked pretty easy actually for Colangelo. Oh, and that's close to contact. Davison just backing away so that he didn't hit Colangelo, and Kane Ryder very nearly hit him. Now it's not a great run for Ryder out the corner. Let's have a look at what happened down into turn 11. Looked almost easy on the exit. There was no side-by-side on the exit at all like there was last time. Just going to be late on the brakes down the inside, and maybe Davison letting that one go now, but either way that was pretty decisive from Oshin Colangelo.
Looked very, very comfortable, didn't it? And I think Davison perhaps just realising that he's not going to be able to keep up these defensive efforts if they've got any hope of catching that 5-second gap now out to Roberts in front. Needed to just let it happen so that this group can work together and keep pushing hard and try and reduce, whatever means necessary, the gap out in front. They're praying for a safety car right now, but most importantly, praying it's not one of this group of cars.
Yeah, absolutely. But if there's ever a place where a safety car is likely to come from, I hate to say it, but the big group battling for seconds might be a good...
That's probably indicative, isn't it?
Yeah. Might be a good bet, so let's hope not for these guys' sake. I do think, by the way, that this circuit maybe doesn't lend itself to seeing very many safety cars. Actually, if you average it out across all the racing, whatever, I think Motegi is probably one of the lesser likely ones to see a safety car. Oh, as I say that, there's a big spin coming through turn 10 for Alexi Watson.
Well, I have joked about commentator curses before. And not paid them perhaps as much heed as I should have, because Ewan O'Leary, what a way to introduce a bit of action and a potential safety car. Very, very lucky there to not have contact. Angus Milne now up the inside, and Byrne will just drop in, just staying ahead of the corner. This action's starting to pick up. The drivers are starting to push us a little hard now as we approach the halfway point of this race.
Yeah, they are. Not sure why the 20-minute mark has set that off, really, but it has. It seemingly has. And Angus Milne does keep 8th place, but only just in a close moment with Daniel Byrne. Next up, Donahue and Vaughan Ryder and Daniel Ackland, by the way. Manuel McGee 13th as well in that group, but we'll go back to second because this is still a very, very lively group. Good job so far from Oisin Colangelo to hold on to second place after getting it. That's the hard part, keeping it afterwards when you make a move like that. Is Davison sat in behind intensely though, or not? I get the feeling not, because I'm not sure how comfortable I'd be being sandwiched by two Max Boost cars in third place right now, whereas Davison is.
No, it's not a great spot to be, and Colangelo, they're not managing to shake Davison. We see Davison make a move towards the outside. Colangelo's defending, so perhaps the pace on track here not quite as quick as we thought out in that clear air, because Davison's starting to think about having a crack at taking this spot back. Colangelo not making the progress that we would hope to see here. The gap to Roberts increasing now to 5.5 seconds. So whether or not Davison is helping that situation with pushing so hard at this point, but at this point, what else do you do? As Danny Davison, you've got a Team Max Boost car either side. You even blink the wrong way and Kane Ryder gets through, and then you've got the two teammates working together. They're going to start to walk away from this group.
I suspect they've abandoned the race lead now, to be honest with you. Unless there's a safety car, surely this is going to be going Benjamin Roberts' way again for the third race in a row in the F4 Championship. Really close now for third, though, between Kane Ryder and Danny Davison. And that's a better run through the final turn for Kane as well. He's going to go over the line about 2 tenths behind, but he's not going to be close enough. It's not a very long run down in towards turn number 1, and so he can't find his way past. But again, Davison in such an awkward position here to be between the two teammates. I understand why he would have let Colangelo go effectively from that second place battle, because it was just not an ideal place to be, really, being stuck in the middle like that, or stuck at the front like that with so much pressure. But this is not ideal either, being stuck in the middle of the two teammates in towards turn 2 again. Look at how close Kane Ryder is this time. A 10.5 maybe. There's going to be a lunge here at turn 4, is there? He's so close behind, and you can see him thinking about it, but he doesn't do it once again.
No, it's one of those decisions you have to really set up for a long way in advance. Once you're on the brakes in F4, there's very little you can do to adjust the line that you've taken. But you can see already Colangelo is defending very, very hard here, and that's actually making it very difficult for Ryder to set up for an attack, because it's forcing Davison into a less than ideal spot for Ryder to have an attempt at a pass. So he's going to keep an eye now on Thomas Hins behind. He's starting to threaten, has really picked up the pace. Perhaps these three have burnt that much pace so far they just haven't got that gap anymore back to Hins, Banerjee and Burkhardt, who were, not so long ago, almost 2 seconds behind this group of three.
I think they have probably battled themselves into this one, those front three, as Thomas Hins gets close. Doesn't go for it though, down in towards turn 11. Look how close they are though. These 6 drivers super close for third place, or second place rather, in this field. It is a great battle to watch, but there is a degree, because we've got over 20 minutes to go, there is a degree of, we're saving for later really in this race. Just making sure that we don't take each other off the road or do anything silly. So there is a little bit of that going on at the moment. However, it is still a good fight nevertheless, with Colangelo still leading. The problem for Colangelo is that she's just outbroken herself down in towards turn 4 the last couple of laps. That's what's allowed Davison alongside before the S's, but he doesn't seem to want to go around the outside at turn 7, which is really... it means that he's not going to be getting through if he's not willing to do that for the moment. So we'll see if that changes later in the race, but for now, not too willing to go around the outside there, maybe because he's worried about getting freight trained by the 4 queuing up behind him.
And this is the problem when you're racing in a pack like this. You start to worry a little bit about just how much you can lose from a small and simple error. As we take a look back to Alexi Watson now being passed up the inside, Todd Parks makes it look easy in the end. Watson just perhaps struggling a little with those tyres after that slide earlier, but straight away attacks the inside of that corner, passes Parks, and Mitchell Hathaway wants to go with them. Have a look at this pack just in front of them as well, though. You've got Milton, Byrne, Donohoe, Ryder, Ackland, Madam McGee all in it as well. So this little battle, this threesome going on here is not alone in starting to push some of the limits of these cars to just try and get a little extra pace, try and pick up perhaps a little of the gap in front, but really some very, very separate battle groups going on for the moment. Huge separation, particularly for the group just ahead as we jump up to Angus Milne and Daniel Byrne heading up this battle for 8th. The gap forward is fairly significant as we see Roberts has come in for the second pit stop now, and Davison has jumped in straight behind.
Yeah, the first chance, the earliest chance for you to come in and make it to the end of the race. Roberts and Davison have taken it, it looks like, as they come down pit lane. 6th and 7th they are now. They're going to be right in this group. Roberts is, anyway, is he going to be just in behind them? No, he's not quite going to be with them, which is pleasing. But if these 4 don't come in pretty quickly, then he's going to be stuck. Side by side, meanwhile, between Tom Pox and Halfway, who is down the inside. That's Mitchell Halfway into 13th briefly. He finally get himself in front. Not quite the run-up of turn 1. Not quite good enough, and Tom Pox is going to keep that inside line. Maybe keep 13th place. Let's see, in towards turn 2. Not quite. Round the outside for Halfway. He keeps the place in 13th.
Park's just pushing the front end of the F4 a little too hard there. Gets a little bit of a wiggle on in the rear end as a result. And that's just enough for Hathaway to get the drive out of the corner. As we see behind, Raymaker's getting out of the way of Davison, who's just come out of the pit. So I want to stay out of the way. That's Hathaway off.
Halfway. It is.
No sooner have I said that he's got the traction down.
Yeah.
We'll have to go back and have a look. I don't know that there was, but let's see what we can see on the replay here as we focus on Mitchell Hathaway. Is this just driver error?
Or is it Parks hitting him into turn 4? It is driver error. A very bizarre one as well. Oh, Parks might have just clipped him, but he was certainly already spinning by then. Mitchell Halfway just had to gather it up. You don't normally, I've got to say, you don't normally see that from that kind of corner in this car, but definitely got very loose there, and went into the gravel, back down to 16th place, lost 3 places. Pretty punishing for him. Here comes Daniel Pearl around the outside of Angus Milne down into turn 11. He's stuck it out there, and inside at the final couple of corners. This is going to get really tight between these two, and they still battle. Oh goodness me, they just about make it through, and in the background Tom Donahue's going to try and take them both with 3 wide across the start finish line for the first time here tonight. 3 wide action since the start of the race, and with just over 15 minutes to go. Donahue's going to take the double overtake, is he? It's round the outside from Daniel Byrne. What a run round the outside through turn 1. Great racing from him, and he's got the inside at turn 2 and 3.
Keep your eye on the background. Those Team Max Boost entries, they are like sharks back there, just waiting for this to come unstuck for Byrne, Donohue and Milne, who continue to battle but settling it down for the moment. We'll have to jump forward though, because plenty going on in this front pack now, with Banerjee, Ryder and Burkhart's all mixing it up in a very, very similar kind of moment.
So Kane Ryder's lost a couple of places to Hinds and Banerjee, and that has allowed Oisin Colangelo to get away, which might just help in the battle for second place. It's going to be between Colangelo and Davison, I think, for second place. These guys might well be fighting for 4th off the podium. Worth noting, though, that Benjamin Roberts is now in that big group for 6th place, so he will be desperate for them to pit soon, because he's going to start to lose an awful lot of time. For example, last time round, they were at least a second slower than these guys, even though these guys are battling amongst themselves, they were at least a second slower.
And something to take note of, if you've not driven the F4s before, and a big hello to 317 in the chat, the F4s, you've got probably 2, maybe 3 laps before you start to lose grip in these tyres. So Ben Roberts, sitting at the back of that pack, will be just absolutely devastated to lose the best of those tyres. As we see him make a move now, Madeline McGee wants to get moving through this pack. Can't quite get there. McGee goes very, very wide, which allows Roberts through. McGee's off the track, will have to recover. But Roberts will be happy to move up another position. Vaughan Ryder now in the battle for, well, look, we'll call it a battle for 9th officially, but of course everyone ahead of Roberts here needing to come in and make their pit. Kane Ryder's come into pit. This will give us a very, very good indication of just how much time Roberts has lost by being stuck behind and in this group. Ryder is on the way out of the pits now. Just in the background, poking the nose out onto the track.
Yeah, so still a long way behind, and this would need to carry on for many laps if Roberts were to lose the race lead, but it is worth noting anyway. 52.4 last time round from Oisin Colangelo at the front of the field. Benjamin Roberts did a 52.4 as well, because he hadn't quite caught up yet at the start of the last lap, so that's why he goes down the inside now of Vaughan Ryder, and that's close. Side by side between the two into turn 4, but he's got it done by the looks of things. That was a pretty important pass to make. And he looks like he's going to be okay. This is maybe a little bit more stressful in this part of the race than he really would have wanted, but it looks like it's going to be okay as far as keeping the race lead goes.
Still plenty of work for him to do, though. There's these few cars in front, and when you look at the way that Donoghue was battling with Byrne and with Milne just a couple of laps ago, and it hasn't calmed down at all, really. They may not have ended up 3 wide, but have a look at Donoghue as he looks for an opportunity to go around the outside here. Byrne is defending hard. Donoghue's going to have a nice run from that line here down the start-finish line, and perhaps a bit of a shot on this downhill braking zone. Again, defensive line taken by Byrne.
Towards the downhill braking zone, and Donoghue looks to the outside but doesn't really go anywhere. He'll go for the cutback instead, and that might just give him a bit alongside here. Already seen side by side through the final corner. It allowed Donoghue to get 3 wide with them down towards turn 1 a few laps ago. Not this time round. Seth Burkhardt comes in, so does Vaughan Ryder into the pit lane for the moment, so they will drop down, but still the last pit stops of the day yet to be completed. 17 laps been completed now, by the way, so that's past the pit window we were predicting. Maybe a couple more laps, because Donoghue was able to stretch out the pit window for an extra lap, don't forget, in that first run as well.
Yeah, which will benefit in some way, but certainly not enough to challenge here with Ben Roberts right on their tail. You can't see much hope for many of these drivers catching Roberts with their second pit stop. About the only opportunity right now is going to be Colangelo and Hinz out in front, and even that looks incredibly unlikely. They're only about 14 seconds away from this group, and that is not going to be enough to get in and out of the pits ahead of Roberts, even if he does get held up here. What I'm interested to see is how Roberts negotiates these 3, because they are fighting hard and they will defend hard. I can't see them giving Roberts an easy pass, particularly Donoghue and Milne from Everything Simulated Racing. They're locked in it with Byrne. They're just keeping their eyes focused ahead. Roberts is going to have to really work for this.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's still not the most ideal situation he's found himself in here this afternoon. We seem to have lost Mitchell halfway from a disconnection here. He's dropping down the field, and it might be our first retirement of the day. Unfortunately, due to technical problems, he's just disappeared around halfway through the lap, and so that's the end of him, unfortunately. Since he's not reappearing, I'll presume that it's internet, and unfortunately we won't be seeing him again in this race by the looks of things, as Richard Banerjee comes into pit lane from 3rd, and that will drop him down behind Roberts again. But the 3 in front, staying in front of this race leader, again just giving him a little bit more stress than really he needed, but he should be fine by the end of the day. He should still be in the lead when all the pit stops have happened.
Yeah, it should be, and even so, the gap out to Colangelo and Hinz in front not increasing a great deal. So Roberts probably not feeling super driven to make the pass here. At the moment, he'll look for the opportunities, but quite happy to sit in there knowing that all 3 of these drivers need to make their second pit stop. That may change if this battling picks up again and you can't pick a way through and the gap starts to increase. But Colangelo at the moment looking fairly comfortable, although not quite at a pace that's going to allow her to maintain that first position post a pit stop.
No, not for the moment, as these 4 again make their way into the S's again. Just less than 10 minutes to go, by the way, in this first feature race in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship here this season. It is back to sprint racing next week. We'll be live same time, same place from Phillip Island. For that 15 and 30 minute race. Down the inside for Roberts. He gets past Angus Milne. You would have thought, actually, at this stage, they're so close to pitting that he might just wait, but he doesn't want to wait around. He wants to make absolutely sure of this, and he does dive down the inside to make another place.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time, and you could see him just creeping closer and closer to every corner, waiting for the safest point to make that overtake. It's a great view we get here from just over Roberts' shoulder, and perhaps a little extended on just how much of a gap there is there. But he will be right in behind Donoghue in no time. With the battle, though, with Byrne up ahead, really what Donoghue has in mind. Keep an eye on Oceano Colangelo into the pits. Byrne goes into the pits as well. So it'll be a question of how far behind Colangelo is on the way back out of pits. Anticipating probably going to be out of pits in about 5 seconds' time. but that will be more than enough for Roberts to have probably about a 10-second lead.
It should be. It's a very, very nice place to be for Roberts. It looks like it's going to be a third race win in a row to start the season. He's making absolutely sure of this by pressuring Tom Donoghue at the moment towards turn 2, and who goes a bit wide. And surely there's going to be a chance here for Roberts down on the brakes at 4. Is going to be on the defensive. No, he's not even going to defend here. Donoghue, he's going to let him go there. And there you go. Roberts into second place. Now he's in the clean air. The stressful part of the race is over. He's much less likely to get involved in a crash now, that's for sure. And he's just got to bring it home for the next 8 minutes.
Donoghue doing everything possible to just stay in the slipstream and take full advantage of Roberts' additional speed here. And it's the way to go, isn't it? You know, if you've got that faster driver coming through, you may as well just try and milk everything you can out of being in behind them. That'll get Donoghue just a few extra kilometres an hour down each straight for as long as he can stay in that slipstream. The battle's really starting to spread out throughout the field now. We don't have those big packs as everyone comes in for that second pit stop. Thomas Hinz out in front still owing the pit gods another visit at this point, so won't stay in P1 for too much longer. Tom Donoghue, of course, needs to make a second stop as well. So O'Shane Colangelo looking pretty well on track for a P2 finish as Hinz comes into the pits.
And he will drop to the midfield with that pit stop. That's a midfield. He's going to be knocking on the door of a top 5 for sure. He's going to be around these guys, I would expect. Rishabh Banerjee, Cam Ryder, Seth Burkhardt, all in the midfield for now, but they should be moving on up with a couple of stops. Donoghue's still not needing a pit stop here. There's 7 minutes to go and still is continuing on. Out the pit lane for Thomas Hinz. He's shortened that final stop because he's gone so long, and that's put him in the conversation with Davison here, right in behind Colangelo. He's actually ahead of Davison as well, so it's Thomas Hinz who's a net third place at the moment.
That's a cracking stop from Hinz. Look, almost a full second, in fact, an easy full second faster in the box than Colangelo, and has closed that gap right up, so might just sneak in to the podium here with a fantastic stop. Danny Davison behind, just not going to have much of a shot of catching at this stage, you wouldn't think, barring any errors. 6 minutes here left to go. Roberts comfortably out in front. Donoghue, do you think Donoghue's done enough in saving fuel that they can get away with a single stop? Surely not.
No, I don't think so. One safety car, definitely. I think he's done enough fuel saving to actually manage it if there was a safety car, but there's unlikely to be one this late. And in any case, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think there's ever likely scenario where there is one around this circuit, to be honest, because the barriers are actually quite a long way away from the racetrack. There would have to be car-on-car contact, which thankfully we've not seen very much of here today, barely any of. In fact, it's been very, very clean racing all round, bar a minor exception here or there. This is the biggest group now on the circuit between Banerjee, Ryder and then Burkhardt at the back end of this group. So this is much reduced on what we saw earlier, where the big groups were really prevailing. Now it is a lot more organised as Cam Ryder has a look down the hill, but Rishabh Banerjee able to defend. And now Tom Donoghue comes in just 5 minutes from the finish.
Doing everything he can to extend that and minimise this pit stop. It'll be interesting to see where Donoghue comes out. Up 12 positions at the moment. We'll probably drop another few before he gets out of the pits. The question is where he's going to get back out on the track. It should be a fairly quick one though. Still 4 seconds in the box. So not perhaps as quick as he would have liked. But we'll probably put him in fairly direct competition with this group.
And it should be a top 10, and it is for Tom Donoghue. Another bit of weaving there from Cam Ryder as the stakes are just ramped up here. This is now a battle for a top 5 position, and it will be for the final 5 minutes of this race. Cam Ryder looking left and right to try and get himself through, and look at that, that's very close, really close to the back of Rishabh Banerjee there, crawling all over the back of him through turn 3. Now Dent on to the brakes for 4. And he get round there, it's going to be hard, and he's going to be just shuffled out wide, and that's the risk. Seth Burkhardt can get alongside, but not for the moment. He's still there, and Rishabh Banerjee is going to have to give him room here. In towards turn 7 they go. It's going to be side by side into the S's, and for the first, oh no, he's not going to give it a go. Well, I thought he would go around the outside of the first part to get the inside of the second, but no, still not willing to do that even in the last 5 minutes.
Burkhardt's is thinking about it though. You can see just wanting desperately to follow Ryder through, and this could be the opportunity Burkhardt's has been looking for. Banerjee just a little slow out of the corner. Burkhardt's around the outside. Can he get the over-under done here? Banerjee does a great job defending that inside of the apex, but again, going to be very slow out of the corner, and here we go down the hill. This is an opportunity for Burkhardt's to look up the inside. Banerjee defending just a little, but probably not enough. How brave is Burkhardt's feeling with these brakes?
And the inside, it's going to be tight into 11, and he's got it. That was decisive from Seth Burkhardt, very decisive. Almost forced Richard Banerjee into submission there, and he's down to 7th, so a couple of places lost at a crucial moment. It looks like it might not be a top 5 for Banerjee. He really slides out the final corner there as well. And unfortunately for him, it is still going to be his best result of the season so far, but it's not quite the top 5 that he was holding up until a couple of moments ago.
No, and you can see Banerjee just really struggling with tyre grip on the way out of those corners. Maybe just has pushed a little too hard, overheated the surface a little, and just not able to hold the same kind of lines as Burkhardt's, who in the end made it look relatively easy. We'll jump forward though, because Hinds is really starting to give Colangelo some concern as we get into the dying stages of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is sort of a case of Thomas Hinds growing into the race, really. It wasn't particularly flashy in terms of the start of this race, but towards the end, he has got quicker and quicker and quicker, and he's now battling for second. The only disadvantage for him, I guess, is that, you know, we're only a lap and a half away from the finish. The white flag should be waving as they cross the line next time round.
Just the inspiration that he'll need, though, to really have a crack at this, I'm sure. Something that we observed last week to see Hinds out here, you know, jumping from V8 Supercars to F4 in a week across a couple of different leagues is pretty impressive, and I wonder how much that little mantra across his roll bar has to do with that, because he's certainly showing some good pace so far in this series.
Yeah, he's an experienced sim racer, Thomas Hinds. I've known of him for many years. He probably won't want me reminding him, but yes, he's been around sim racing for a long time. I certainly know about his V8 Supercar credentials. I must admit, I hadn't seen him do any open wheel racing before I saw him in the FDL leagues. He's now in the Super Formula Lights League as well as the F4 Championship. So yeah, it's good to see him having a go at the open wheelers as well as the V8 Supercars, which I do know him for a little bit more. Donoghue, meanwhile, holds on to 8th ahead of Daniel Byrne. The white flag is indeed waving. One more lap to go here from Twin Rim Motegi at the end of the first feature race of the season.
Just a couple of battles left to sort this out. Ben Roberts looked fairly comfortable out in front. We'll see him finish with about a 6.5 second lead. The question is going to be who takes P2. Hinds and Colangelo still going at it here. Colangelo just opening up a little more of a gap. It could be enough to carry her all the way home, but Hinds will be looking for any opportunity to close this back up. 3/10 doesn't sound like a lot, but at a track like Motegi, that can be really hard to find.
Yeah, it certainly can. We've seen tonight that it's not been the easiest circuit in the world to overtake on, although it certainly has been possible. Hey, there's a good camera to actually see the different lines. Look how worn in the circuit gets in there. Maybe that's why we haven't seen anybody attempting the outside line, because I guess the off line is just so dirty at this stage.
Yeah, it builds up really quickly, considering, you know, this is not a massive field of cars. It's a good sized field, but it's not a, you know, it's not a 60 car deep type field. To see that much rubber going down, you'd be crazy not to take advantage of it.
It's very telling from that shot through there. But either way, we are coming towards the close now, and it doesn't look like Hinds is quite going to manage it. Last lap pass maybe for Daniel Byrne, trying to get past Dom Donoghue down in towards turn 10, and they are going to remain side by side. Further out front though, Benjamin Roberts is going to come out the final corner to take the checkered flag. He wins again here in the F4 Championship, the everything simulated F4 Championship. We've had drama on the last lap by the looks of things for Burkhardt's and Kane Ryder, and Burkhardt's dropped behind Donoghue and Kane Ryder. And oh dear, so many cars off the circuit down there at turn 11. Kane Ryder's outside the top 10. Seth Burkhardt's now drops to 10th. He's going to get his top 5 after all. Daniel Byrne got past Tom Donoghue, and he also got 2 extra free places, so he's up to 6th. Goodness me, we'll see what happened in a moment to those guys down at turn 11. Kane Ryder loses another place to his teammate Madeline McGee. He ends up 12th.
Not the finish that Ryder probably would have liked or deserved after a very, very convincing drive through most of the time. Let's go back and take a look, see if we can figure out just what's happened there.
Well, we haven't seen too many incidents here today, thankfully, but it's come right at the end of the race. Kane Ryder on the brakes, that's a late dive. Kane Ryder didn't see it coming. Steph Burkhardt and Kane Ryder, and then they get locked together. That is very odd. Not something I've seen in iRacing very often, but it happens in real life. You see it happen in real life. The wheels getting interlocked. They had to figure it out amongst themselves to get back going again. Kane Ryder ends up losing a top 10 place.
Really disappointing, and I'm sure the stewards will have something to look at there. But Ben Roberts, very, very convincing again tonight. 6.8 over Colangelo. That's really hard to comprehend as a driver. Like, how do you find 6.5 seconds to stay in touch with a driver like Roberts?
Oh yeah, exactly. We saw it a similar distance actually after the half-an-hour race as well in the first round of the season, sprint round at the Bend. So it's it's certainly a show of dominance to begin with from Benjamin Roberts, that is for sure. Patrick Savina makes his way over the line now. He only just stayed on the lead lap actually, so he completes his race, and therefore I think we're able to take a look at the race results at the end of that 45-minute feature race here from Twin Ring Motegi. A couple of drivers down on the pit lane haven't retired, but it's Benjamin Roberts who wins the race, as you say, by 6.8 in the end, ahead of Oisin Colangelo. Thomas Hinds rounds out the podium places, with Danny Davison and Rishabh Banerjee getting his first top 5 of the season. It's Daniel Byrne who finishes 6th after that late pass from Tom Donoghue. Angus Milne finishes 8th ahead of Vaughan Ryder, and Seth Burkhardt, who drops to 10th in that late incident. Madeline McGee 11th after getting past Kane Ryder on that run to the line. Alexei Watson, Dan Ackland and Todd Park round out the top 15, with James Raymakers in 16th. Sam Katsinos and Tristan McLaren, the last driver, within a minute of the win. Ben Ryder, Patrick Savina round out those who finished, and unfortunately William Fraser parked it with 2 laps to go. Mitchell halfway disconnected with 7 laps to go in that race. Let's have a chat to Benjamin Roberts then, the race winner from that second round of the season, and congratulations Benjamin on the race win here tonight. It is 6.8 seconds this time round. Looked pretty dominant, looked pretty comfortable. How was it from inside the car?
Yeah, felt pretty much that way after the first pit stop. This is one of the tracks where I wasn't too confident going into this week, just because as I've struggled to be consistent here previously. Yeah, I sort of took care of the tyres a little bit on the first stint. Knew I wasn't going to get away with the pace the others had. Decided the short fill on the first pit stop, just to sort of get out of the tow and try and build a bit of a gap that way, and that worked a lot better than I expected. So after the second stop, yeah, it was even with a little bit of traffic I was stuck in, it was, yeah, pretty cruisy to the finish.
Yeah, how was that period in the traffic? Because, you know, I said it would have been a nervy point for you, because not necessarily because of the gap coming down, but just the proximity to getting involved in a crash is a lot higher than what it was when you were out front on your own. Just how were those moments when you were stuck in that big battle in the sort of early part of that final stint?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. So, you know, because of, you know, the Asia Pacific regionals earlier in the week, I had a lot of practice in traffic and knowing, you know, if cars made mistakes in certain places where they'd lose time. So I wasn't too stressed about that. I was more worried about just taking my time and passing cars one by one with pretty safe opportunities.
Well, congratulations on taking your 3rd win of the season already here, and thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us at the end of the race as well.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks very much. That is Benjamin Roberts, the winner here tonight in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship at Motegi. Let's have a chat now to Oisin Colangelo, who finished in 2nd place. And Oisin, welcome and congratulations on finishing 2nd here tonight. You had to hold off Thomas Hinds right to the very end. What were those final few laps like in that battle for 2nd?
Well, I came out of the pits a second and a half in front of Danny, who I was fighting just before I pitted, so I had a bit of a relief. But then a lap later, Thomas came out 6/10, so I'm like, okay, well, I better keep pushing hard and I knew I had to keep him within a few tenths, and I just managed to do that.
You're going to consolidate second place in the championship. I know it's early on, we've only done 3 races, 2 rounds, but firstly, what can you do about Benjamin Roberts at the front of the field, and second of all, how pleased are you with these first 2 rounds of the season so far?
Oh yeah, very pleased. From where I was at the end of last year in the Formula 4 cars, I would say I've made some pretty good progress. I was nowhere near Benjamin Roberts' time, so I'm pretty happy with the season so far. And hopefully we can keep it this way and maybe even bring a battle to Ben.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to it, Oisin. For now, thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us. Congratulations on second here tonight, and we'll see you again next week at Phillip Island.
Thank you. See you then.
Thanks very much. That's Oisin Colangelo in the second place from our feature race tonight. And as I say, Thomas Hinge was really applying the pressure towards the end there, but ends up third. Thomas, welcome in. Congratulations on a podium finish, and indeed the fastest lap for the second race out of the 3 so far this season. How was that race for you? Because you were involved in the big group battling for second in the end. Couldn't quite get second, but you did get third. How pleased are you to end up on the podium at the end of all that?
Yeah, thanks, Ewan. Quite pleased. Yeah, I didn't think, after the pace of everyone in practice and quality, I was sort of like, well, if we can hold top 5, that'd be nice. But found in the race there, I kind of forgot just how little fuel these things use per lap, so the whole cutting out of stop wasn't going to happen. So, and the draft is very tight too. If you're anything beyond like 8 tenths, the draft really doesn't have much of an effect. So a lot of that first part was just staying in the pack, keeping with everybody, not losing time, keeping clean. And then, second stint, obviously there was a bit of battling and squabbling, and looks like people were just struggling a little to keep the consistency. So I knew it was going to pit really early like Danny and that did, just because I had a feeling I might have been able to go a little faster on my own, but I thought I'll stick it out because I didn't want to get caught in traffic further back. Thankfully, that seemed to work. Had a really nice entry, I think, on that last run, and nice last couple of laps before I pitted that really helped to get me ahead of Danny and the rest. And then just at the end, I pretty much wasn't going to go for anything until about a lap to go, because I really didn't want to let Danny get involved and maybe have him steal the podium. So I was sort of just waiting until about the last half, that last lap, to really have a go. But Sean really put in a really strong little drive the whole time, but especially at the end there, she was very clean and consistent and brought it home really well. So, but really happy with the third.
And really tactical racing as it is in these F4 races, because as we're seeing some slow-mos of at the moment, it was a very very long train for the first stint of the race effectively, and there's a lot of pit strategy to work out how you can get through this race, get to the podium. Just what are the tactics like? What are the sort of thoughts going through your mind in these big groups here as you're working out how to get to the front of it, knowing that just bashing and crashing and trying to overtake everybody is not really the way to do it in these cars, especially not at Motegi anyway.
It's mostly just, as I said, it's that draft. I've sort of only really in the last sort of month or so got back into league racing a lot. I was still racing before, but not as much. So I kind of forgot how tight the draft is on these F4s. As I said, it's only probably 8 tenths ish, and then beyond that, you don't really get much of a effect. You kind of get a residual draft, but it's not enough to really meaningfully affect lap time. So bearing that in mind, I'm always, especially where I was there in the middle, I didn't really want to battle much and drop behind the pack, because I knew if I tried to go for anything, or if we started squabbling, we'd drop below, even beyond a second. If we dropped there, we wouldn't really get a draft, and we'd start to drop back if the cars ahead started to put in some good laps. So most of that race was just trying to stick to the tail of the car behind as best I could. I think I made a little error in that first stint. It was actually after I did the fastest lap, I had a little error, and I think it was the first corner, and that dropped me a little further back, and even then it was a struggle trying to keep up then because of just the draft being so tight with these cars. So thankfully Richard behind me was on the same page. He seemed to be just trying to tag on with me as well. He wasn't trying to do any bombs or anything to lose his time, which was good, so that helped. Mostly it's just trying to keep that draft, keep consistent. It's those odd laps where you start battling or you have a few slow laps. That's where it really costs you time in the end.
Absolutely. Well, congrats on navigating all of that and getting a podium here tonight from Motegi, and look forward to seeing you again in hopefully a week's time.
Thank you very much, Ewan. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. That is Thomas Hin's third place here from Twin Win Motegi here in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship, presented and supported by Player One SimGear. That's just about it from us here tonight. There are the championship points updated for us after the first 3 races of the season. Provisional, of course, with anything post-race that could change things, but it shouldn't do. Benjamin Roberts will take the lead, or keep the lead rather, ahead of Oisin Colangelo, and then the changes come. Thomas Hin's up to 3rd, which is where he finished in that race. Danny Davison up to 4th, where he finished also. Daniel Byrne up into the top 5 as Kane Ryder drops out of it. Richard Banerjee up to 7th with his first top 5 of the season. Tom Donahue up to 8th. Josh Perrier wasn't here today, that's why he's down 6. Daniel Ackland stays 10th ahead of Vaughan Ryder, who's up 6 places. He's the biggest gainer of anybody here today. Tristan McLaren down a position into 12th with Todd Potts, Seth Burkhardt and Alexi Watson all gaining places as well. Hayden Millington wasn't here today. Angus Moon stays where he is. Georgie Slater wasn't here today either. Mitchell Halfway with that disconnection drops the place. Josh Mars as well drops a few places because he wasn't here either. In 20th place. A bit further down, Madden McGee, another one of those drivers, new entry into the field. DeBono Ben Ryder drops a place as well. William Fraser down towards the back end of the field. He's down to 24th. James Raymaker, Sam Cacasinos, Patrick Savina, the last new drivers in the field. So we've had 30 drivers now. Hopefully we can get them all on the track together at Phillip Island next week. Jared, it was a good round to have our first feature for 45 minutes here from Motegi, but one thing is clear, it's going to take something mighty special to beat Benjamin Roberts this season.
Oh, it absolutely is. The pace so far has been phenomenal. It's great to see, though, a bit of confidence from Colangelo. You know, the improvement from season to season is what every driver strives for. You're not necessarily going to be able to battle with someone who has just that obscene amount of extra pace, which is why you don't see all of the drivers battling it out for P1. There's battles going on right throughout, but to be able to compare yourself against a driver like Roberts and see that improvement season to season, Colangelo should be really, really happy with that so far. And I think plenty more to come still. I wouldn't be writing off the chances of someone really taking it to Roberts in one of the races this season.
Absolutely, we look forward as neutrals to seeing that. We want to see a great race for the lead, but so far there's not much to argue with. Benjamin Roberts is the fastest driver in this field, but we'll see whether that changes next week. As I say, we'll be back in 7 days' time for the next round at Phillip Island. It'll be a sprint round, a 15-minute first race followed by a 30-minute race a little bit later on. 2 qualifying sessions to cover as well, so make sure you join us for that. Same time, same place as we take on our second Australian round of the championship. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Jared Cole here tonight from Twin Win Motegi, and we'll see you again in 7 days' time from Phillip Island. Goodbye for now.